Hello and welcome to another Looney Tunes review video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to follow my journey to review all 1000 classic Looney Tunes shorts and give this video a like as well. So this is a review for My Little Duckaroo, and with me today as my not one but two comic reliefs are my good friends Essie McPeter and Manny Cruz the Toonie Tenor. Say hi.
Hello, everyone. I'm taking over this. You're the comic relief now.
I was going to say I have to go to the barber on Friday, and my beard is kind of looking like Porky's in this short.
So just a few bits of info to get underway. So as mentioned, this is a review for My Little Duckaroo, released on the 27th of November 1954. It's the 725th in the series, and it's directed by Chuck Jones. You can find this on the Looney Tunes Golden Collection Volume 6 DVD set and on the Platinum Collection Volume 2 Blu-ray or DVD set, and I have links below to both those sets. It's under copyright. You won't find it on YouTube unless Warner Brothers themselves choose to upload it, and they might. Just keep an eye on their channel. But in case you haven't seen this one, it's a sort of a loose remake to Drip Along Daffy, and if you've seen that one, you've just about seen this one. You've got our hero and our comedy relief. I guess they're just wandering along, minding their own business, and they see a reward poster for Nasty Canasta. So they go after him, and it's just Daffy against Nasty Canasta, and that's pretty much it. So not really much to it by way of story. Got a few bits of trivia for this one. So the title itself is based off of the song My Little Buckaroo, and that's been used in a few Looney Tunes shorts, and it's even the name of one of the Looney Tunes shorts. It's a 1938 Frisk Feeling one called My Little Buckaroo, which features Tex Avery singing, so it's got that going for it, which is probably funnier than what's in this short that we're about to do. But anyway.
Close your sleepy eyes, my little buckaroo, while the light of western skies is shining down on you. Now it's time that you were rounding up a dream or two. So go to sleep, my little buckaroo.
It's not to be confused with the short The Daffy Duckaroo, which is a Norm McCabe short that was done in the 40s. This one's My Little Duckaroo, so don't confuse them, okay? I've mentioned Nasty Canasta already, and yeah, this is the second appearance, and I think he's got, what, one or two more appearances? Something like that?
Bar one.
Yeah, so I guess they just needed a heavy, and here he is, so there we are. Here's something I had to dig for. Sorry, I stole your joke, Messi. And it's a reference to that whole Gravedigger's joke book, which I like that scene where he's just laughing along and reading a very morbid book, but it says by Burke and Hare. Now, here's something that's a obscure reference. So I believe that is a reference to the Burke and Hare murders. So there were a series of murders committed in 1828 in Scotland, and they were undertaken by William Burke and William Hare, who sold the corpses for dissection at anatomy lectures. So that one took a lot of digging.
Boo!
But yeah, that's what it's referencing. I mean, I could go even more obscure and try and figure out some of the backgrounds, which we'll touch upon soon, about where all those words come from, or those paragraphs that you see in the background. But anyway, we'll go through that entirely. I saw this one, first of all, in the Golden Collection and Platinum Collection sets. I never saw this one on TV. I did see a lot of the Drip Along Daffy, which, let's get this out of the way, it's far superior to this one, all right? Let's not kid ourselves. It really is. It's a lot more fun. And I think because it features Porky more than this one, where he's just in the beginning and at the end. So, that's just me. Did you guys see this short in any other way, like TV or whatever?
I did not see this one at all, which is weird because I would rent all the Golden Collections as a kid from my library, but I don't ever remember seeing this one. And I feel like if I had seen it, I probably would have been disappointed by the lack of Porky, and as an adult, I still am.
I used to get Drip Along Daffy and this one like mixed in my brain because pretty much they're the same shorts. I did see this one on Cartoon Network, and there were parts of it that I remembered. There's like a few specific gags that popped in my head, but it's been a long time since I've seen it. And then, you know, I was on the commentary for Drip Along Daffy, and now doing this one, I was like,
yeah, me too.
What a downgrade. I mean, not all bad.
I think this is easily one of Jones's biggest flops of the 50s. It just stands out so much that it just feels like everyone had an off day on this one, from the timing, the writing, and even the design. I find the newspaper and Nasty Canasta's place almost distracting. I compared it to Book Review, where they actually markered a lot of it blue in the Red Riding Hood scene to create a city sky. It's like a city scene, but here they don't really do a lot of that, or in a way that makes it stand out. So the characters just feel like they're an empty space, which really hurts the design of this cartoon.
We start off with a musical number, and I think Manny I was looking into this and I was trying to figure out, was this based off of anything? Because you would have in a lot of the Western films like a comedy relief character or like a side character. They'll just sing along the wonderful Western plains, because Western was huge as a genre around this time, and that's what they're playing up here. But is this song based off of anything as far as you're aware?
To my knowledge, no. I'm going to treat this as unless I get evidence to the contrary, and hopefully one day I'll have access to the original cue sheets. This is a Milt Franklin original, and I guess it's kind of just rehashing the idea that Carl Stalling had with Triple Long Daffy, the flower of Gower Gulch.
I got a horse, lazy Will, lazy Will. When I want to ride, he just stands still. He won't go up or go downhill. Giddy up, lazy Willie. Giddy up, yep, yep. Giddy up, lazy Willie. We rode into town one bright sunny day. In a cloud of dust, we galloped away. He was on my back yelling yippee-yi-yay. That no good horse, lazy Willie. Giddy up, yep, yep. Giddy up. Whoa!
But I will say one thing that drove me insane while I was rewatching this. I thought that I had something wrong with the sound, but Porky's singing is not matching what he's playing, in the sense of not singing the right notes in the key that he's in. And, I don't know how to play guitar, but just by listening to it, it's like everything he's singing doesn't fit harmonically in what he's playing in the guitar accompaniment. Bum, 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 bum. Porky's playing in the key of G major, but he's not singing in the same key, and it's driving me insane.
Well, I hope somebody got fired for that blunder.
Yeah, and it's not Mel Blanc's fault or whatever.
May have been the way he was directed, and maybe they settled on a different tempo after they recorded.
It could be a matter of just the Mel Blanc's voice is sped up for Porky, but
I think. Again, I just feel like everything just sort of was an off day with this cartoon.
Pitch correction and auto-tune. No, I'm kidding. I can't stand those things.
No.
It's just a little me being a music nerd in this sense.
That's all right.
So.
But look, we'll focus on some of the things that do work, because it's not a total loss. It's watchable, and it has a lot of funny bits. It's just not, when you compare it to some of their other works, it doesn't go as well. But I like the design here of the horse and the donkey. Well, it's a donkey, isn't it? The small horse, whatever you want to...
Burro?
But I love those designs. They're much more streamlined, and I just love the look of indifference. And I guess that's maybe a sign of things to come with this short, but just the look of indifference to these horses, it's hilarious. And at least he gets into the story fairly quickly. So they see this big sign, like, of all the things he's doing, cattle rustling and all these bad things, and square dancing in a round house, because that's a reference to the square dancing craze that was going at the studio at the time. They were doing a lot of that sort of stuff. Maybe not as much now, because maybe the studio shut down and reopened. I don't know. But for a time, it was a pretty big deal there.
I think it ended after, or at least before, the shutdown. The interest, although Chuck Jones actually contributed covers to a Square Dance magazine. So clearly there was big interest still, but I think that at least Square Dancing During Lunch ended before the shutdown. And this cartoon was produced, I believe, in its entirety before the shutdown was finished. I believe the next one released, Baby Buggy Bunny, that one was mostly finished before the shutdown, and it went through post-production when the studio reopened.
So this one, it's clearly Maltese, just play on words, square dancing, roundhouse, ha-ha, of course.
He did that a lot. He did that joke in Quick Draw McGraw.
Yeah.
He did a lot of these jokes in Quick Draw McGraw, except in that one, the timing's a little better. I'll get into that in a little bit.
Now, I like how Daffy calls himself the Masked Avenger. I just like that delivery. Again, you can say what you want about this short, but I love Mel Blanc's vocals in this one. It's really good. And Porky's expression like, it does? And of course, haha, it's for the money, of course.
This looks like a job for the Masked Avenger. It does? And besides, it isn't the principle of the thing. It's the money.
I love the little bit of him having to get the cape out of his head. That might be the funniest thing for me this entire cartoon.
Well, the funniest thing for me is actually in that same scene where, if you just look at Daffy's horse, he just looks so unimpressed that he even burps at one point.
Yeah.
Just that had a touch. He didn't have to do that. And maybe later on with budgets are more streamlined, they probably wouldn't. But it's those little touches. At least some care went into this. Oh, and in case people are wondering, the parody here is of the Lone Ranger. He refers to his horse as tinfoil, and that's a reference to his horse Silver. So tinfoil, silver, ha ha. Okay. But anyway.
The Masked Avenger, righter of wrong, doer of heroic deeds, rides again.
They go to the hideout. The gag here seems to be more like a holdover from the Hunting trilogy. The whole, hey, the rabbit's hole. So it's a callback to that.
They just didn't do anything that felt particularly funny because they don't even acknowledge the signs. They just look at it, it's just like they're there.
Yeah. And I guess that's one way to move the plot forward. It's like, all right, we're just going to get him to Canasta's house, and that's pretty much it. So there is a smiling rustler, and it doesn't even smile in the short, but anyway, so the smiling rustler, and it's similar to the gag they used in Drip Along Daffy, the smiling undertaker. Used cattle is a nice touch as well, but it falls flat, unfortunately. It doesn't feel as sharp as some of the other shorts, I have to admit. All right.
Yeah.
But anyway, Daffy enters, and you can say bye to Porky. We don't see him again until the very end. So I suppose this is one way for them to do a short that was relatively cheap, especially with the shutdown looming. Because you just got to mostly animate 2 characters and a little bit of a third, and that's it.
Yeah. And that's part of the issue. Porky being absent, because Porky is supposed to be the comic relief. What is he doing that's comical other than the weirdly out of character part of him instigating Daffy to go Irish wrestle Nasty Canasta? He just disappears for like 3-4 minutes, and it just bothered me always that Porky never gets the opportunity to do the upper hand on Nasty, which he doesn't in every other cartoon where they're paired together, where he always gets a chance to show that he's more competent and eventually save the day, which I like. In Drip Along Daffy and the later Dedushu say. Here, that's not the case.
It's kind of giving me early 1940s Bob Clampett vibes. It's like, all right, here's Porky, and now he's gone. That's one thing that, Essie, that you bring up, that Porky is out of character, like the way that he's like instigating Daffy to continue battling on. It didn't bug me, but I do see your point where it's like we're so used to seeing Porky as, the unassuming hero of the picture, and Daffy's own ego and incompetence is his downfall.
It just did not land with me as it would be in like Dedushu say, where Porky doesn't want to tell him that he's doing a bad job and just lets him do it, but also gets a moment to just do competence, or at least try to encourage Daffy to do the right thing, which, again, doesn't happen here because he's absent.
So we get inside, and I see this as like a Chuck Jones indulgence going on. It definitely is. So he enters in as the Master E-Venger, yelling and acting all brave. Canasta ignores him. I guess it's one way to cut the cost down, because it's just a cycle animation of him just playing cards by himself. But before we get into the bit with Daffy, the backgrounds. No prize to the person who identifies exactly where all this literature comes from. No, I'm kidding, of course. But it's an interesting look. I mean, regardless of whether it's effective or not, who came up with this idea going, you know what? I'm going to put some newspaper things in the background here. Let's just do it. Why?
It just makes the whole backgrounds feel empty for the most part. Again, this just feels like Maurice Noble on an off day again, and I feel the magic is not there. It almost feels like a revival cartoon in that way, especially since they have Nasty Canasta, who's a fan favorite. It just frustrates me because a lot of this could be good, but this whole part here of Daffy taking on the different personas and trying to get Nasty to acknowledge him, it's bloated. It goes on for way too long. Even if I love the acting and all of the disguises and the reads, it just goes on way, way, way too long.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. I like the little touches, like the way Canasta makes his cigarette, which I'm going to assume is probably cut from television anyway, but it's a nice little touch. For those who aren't aware, so the references of when Daffy comes in, first of all, as the Frisco Kid, which is a play on the Cisco Kid, who's a Mexican caballero. Did I say it right, man? Caballero?
Say it with me. Caballero.
Caballero. You go with the shish kebabs. There you go. Got it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay.
Shish kebugs.
Bob's your
Bob's
uncle,
your
mate. There you go. Close enough.
But that's who he is. And it's in numerous film, radios, and comic books, and nice animation on the whip. I'll give it that. But that doesn't work, so Daffy comes in as Super Guy, which is clearly a parody of Batman.
I thought it was a Green Lantern. Darn it.
Yes, indeed. But no, it's Superman, of course. But see, the funny thing is about this costume, right? That costume looks akin to the one that Jones did in Super Rabbit back in 1943, because he had that design happening, and even in the comics, the S logo was a bit all over the place. They just changed it up all the time. By now, the S logo was pretty much solidified, and yet they just went back and used the Super Rabbit thing, which means that this cartoon's trash, and we cannot... No, kidding, of course. And by pure coincidence, we're going to see Daffy in a Superman parody in the following year by Bob McKimson, so there's that too. But after all that, which I agree with you, SC does take on a bit too long, we finally see Canasta respond with Do you play cards? Daffy deals and says, cut the cards, and we see a reuse of a gag from Mississippi Hair, cut the cards. Yeah.
It is to laugh. What a patsy. Cut the cards. Nice cut.
Cut the cards. That's a different short, but
Yeah, cut the cards.
cut the cards.
Yes, it's like, nice cut. And this scene is, look, I chuckled a little bit, maybe because of the animation of the gun in the mouth, but it's like, okay, got a huge deal. Canasta's only got one card. Daffy has everything, every kind of flush known to mankind. Oh, it's just a 3 of clubs. Oh, it beats me.
I've got a royal straight flush full house with 4 aces high. What do you got, stranger?
I got a 3 of clubs.
Beats me.
That is a good bit, but it just feels like you're just bored after all that just happened, waiting for this to finally happen. It's just cards, not even like an old Western duel.
Yeah, but then we see that bit with the Gravedigger's joke book that I already referenced earlier, and just the fact that he's chuckling over it shows how dastardly he really is. But look closely at the animation of Daffy trying to make his cigarette. I like the touch here. It's subtle, but it's nice, where he ends up licking up all that tobacco, and then he just lights the paper up, and it just goes into a big puff. Is it needed? No, but it's fine for what it is, I guess. But you can tell how excited I am, by the way, recording this one, right? You can tell in my vocals. I'm doing my best here. I'm doing my best, okay? So we arm wrestle, and there's only going to be one outcome. Because, look, in this short, you know that Daffy's a loser. You know that going in. You know that he's a joke. So you know that he's a loser in every single outcome. It's just a matter of how it's going to happen. In this case, okay, arm wrestling. How's it going to happen? Smash through the table. Okay, good. And then you get the mix-up of the vocals here. It's like, I think you're pretty tough, don't I?
I think you're pretty tough, don't I? Okay, buddy. I tried to be peaceful, but oh no, that wasn't for you. So...
That doesn't really lead to anything, does it, right?
Yeah, the whole gun spinning and then shoots its head, that also just feels a little poorly timed because it spins for so long. It holds for just a little too long before he shoots. That gag was timed perfectly many times in Quick Draw McGraw, so that isn't necessarily to say that there's bad ideas in this cartoon, it's just that they're not executed well enough. Mike Maltese would take most of the gags in this cartoon and play them out so much better in Quick Draw McGraw.
Yeah. And Comedy Relief actually says something that is genuinely funny, and the audiences will go and kick out of it.
Hey, Avenger, why don't you plain old arrest him?
Why not try and arrest him? That was good. I like that. That was good. And if you're an animation student, I actually do encourage people to watch this one scene here when it comes to weight. So you got Canasta being this still unmovable force, and Daffy's trying to move him and all that. That's a great one to study, I feel. Even though it's not exactly the greatest scene or anything, but it's a good one, I think, for animation students.
I agree. Yeah, it is really good, although in terms of just talking story, Daffy has been in so much self-struggle this entire cartoon that it's almost appalling to see just more of it occur.
Yeah, you almost feel sorry for him by this point. It's no longer funny. It just becomes sad towards the end. I think they do these things a bit too long, and I think really what should have made this work more is having Porky more involved. Because I think that would have made this short heaps better. But anyway, Canasta's handcuffed, and Canasta, of course, rips through it like nothing, like it's tissue paper, I suppose. And Daffy is mad, challenges him to a fight like an old-timey boxer, and we see Canasta's wonderful muscles knocking Daffy out.
Well, there, boy, Avenger, go on, fix this little red wagon. He'll kill him. Come on, put up your dukes. Well, come on. What are you? Chicken or something? Huh?
Then we end with, I told you I would fix his little red wagon, and it just ends. Gee, I really wanted to get through the ending pretty quickly, didn't I?
It just ends. They're still outside the house. Canasta has been basically unaffected this whole cartoon. It's like, what is this? Boy, I hope someone got fired for that blunder.
Or even better, is this a good ending or a bad ending? It's an ending.
That's enough. What there is still to go is about the music. I mean, I know you've already mentioned about the initial song, but any other cues we should be aware of? I'm assuming they're Western themed.
You know what's funny? My theme song. It's time for minutes, music time. Okay, cool. So there ain't much to talk about. I know Anthony's like, thank God. A lot of this music is Milt Franklin originals. And again, as we are doing the slow transition away from Carl Stalling, I notice more and more that Milt Franklin isn't as reliant on quoting music as much as Carl Stalling is. Because according to the cue sheet, besides the Merrie Melodies theme, Merrily We Roll Along, the only things that we hear are a very brief 6-second rendition of the overture to the opera William Tell by Rossini. Of course, we've never heard that in any cartoons. And during the scene where Daffy is the Frisco Kid, which I looked up the censored cartoon page, that scene was cut from the broadcast on the Bugs Bunny TV show. You hear Jabareta Tapatio, which is a Mexican folk song. And yeah, that's all she wrote. Or that's all Milt wrote. I said Froke. That's not a word. Milt wrote in this cartoon, but it just goes again to show, like, I assumed, and I guess Anthony, you assumed too, that there was a lot of quote unquote Western standards, you could say, or Western themed music, but it's like, no, Milt Franklin came up with all this original stuff that has that Western vibe to it. And I was genuinely surprised in a good way. And musically it's awesome. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the cues.
Wow. All right, so with this one, okay, there's a lot to admire about it. I love the look of it, and I do love the animation acting. Some of the gags are genuinely funny. Ultimately, it is a little bit of a dud, I have to agree, but I probably like it more than you do, SC, okay? Honestly, watch Strip Along Daffy. It's the better of the two, hands down, no questions there. So, I don't know, in terms of a rating, 7.5, yeah, I think that's my score. If it's on, I'll watch it. It's got some good bits, but it's not particularly memorable. It's lacking that X factor, that oomph. But anyway, that's my score. So, yeah.
7 out of 10. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen, but yeah, it is a relatively big step down from Trip Along Daffy. But there are parts that do make me chuckle. The pistol shoving scene, the Porky's reaction at the end. And this is another fine example of posing when Daffy makes those faces. And as you mentioned, if you want to study weight in animation, definitely a good scene to reference. But yeah, it's not the worst thing I've seen, but
you can't win them all.
I'm going to be the lowest and give it a 6.5 because even with what works well in this cartoon, the acting, some of the reads, you can just get that better and laugh at it elsewhere. It just feels like all three of the guys who would have made this cartoon primarily what it is, Mike Maltese, Maurice Noble, Chuck Jones, feels like they just all had an off day on what could have been a really good idea. Just centers way too much on Daffy against himself. I just can't bring myself to like it as much as anything else, especially since these guys, right before and right after, were doing masterpieces. The next cartoon in production was Baby Buggy Bunny, although I don't think Noble was on that one. I think he left right before the shutdown. But again, Baby Buggy Bunny, that's such a great story, and there's really good design in that one that isn't as distracting. But yeah, this one just feels like it fell apart, and I can't believe we spent less time on this than by word of mouth somehow.
I mean, at the end of the day, we'll still gladly take this over a Buddy Short or a Seven Arts Daffy, whatever. But yeah, can't win them all.
Indeed. But that, I think, will do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and until next time, take care.
That's all, folks.
Time to get my little red wagon. Probably paint it orange because I like the color better.
Orange.
You should have seen it. The wheels were busted. The axle was all bent, and it needed a new coat of paint. Now I'm going home to Mother.